What up? It's your boy Wall Street, and I'm back. Another late free agency move to announce. Quentin Grimes has agreed to sign a one-year qualifying offer with the Philadelphia 76ers worth $8.7 million. This will also include a no-trade clause, so Grimes can really veto any trade he wants, and it gives him a little bit more power. And obviously, the reason he's doing this is so that he can bet on himself, have another really good year, build on what he did last year, and sign a much larger long-term deal with either the Sixers or a different team in 2026, right? So this whole offseason has been just, story after story about how restricted free agents have not been able to get the money that they want. I think a decent amount of them kind of came out pretty well. Like Josh Giddey got, that 4-year, I think it was like $100 million deal. Cam Thomas is really the only other one that accepted a qualifying offer. He did a $6 million qualifying offer with the Brooklyn Nets, also includes a no trade clause. And then obviously Jonathan Kuminga, who I was talking about the other day, just signed a 2-year deal with the Warriors, $48.5 million, has a team option in the 26-27 season. So let's talk about Quentin Grimes, though. I'm a big fan of Quentin Grimes. Came over to Philly at the trade deadline this past season. Another just horrible Nico Harrison trade. Was on the Mavericks, traded him for Caleb Martin, and they also traded a second-round pick, which turned out to be Janai Broome, who was a very good player at Auburn, and I think he's going to be a pretty solid player in the NBA. So Nico Harrison just continues to get fleeced. But then, lucks out and gets the number 1 pick in Cooper Flag, but that's a whole different story. So Quentin Grimes, I've been a fan of since he was on the Knicks. He was, a first-round pick in the 2021 NBA draft. He was picked by the Clippers, but got traded to the New York Knicks. And, he had a solid couple of years on the Knicks, really didn't solidify until kind of later on in his Knicks career. His second year with the team had, 11.3 points per game. And then after that, in the 23-24 season, got dealt to the Pistons. Didn't have a really, a lot of playing time in Detroit. Only played 6 games for them. And then winded up on Dallas for the 24-25 season. And then got traded to Philly. Played 28 games with Philly. Obviously, they were an extremely injured roster this past season. But in those 28 games, Quentin Grimes averaged 21.9 points per game, 4.5 assists, 1.5 steals, 5.2 rebounds. Was shooting 47% from the field and 37% from 3. He was putting up 40 balls. I was like, who is this guy? Like, Buddy is on something else right now. And I always kind of saw the potential. Dude is super athletic, has a lot of motivation to play hard and just, play the game the right way. Does a lot of the little things, defends really well. So I was like, this is a gem that the Sixers have found, right? And, they have him under contract now for another year. I don't know what's going to happen, man. If I'm the Sixers, I would have tried to lock this dude up for way more long term. They just weren't willing to pay him as much. I think he had a deal on the table from the Sixers that was 4 years, $39 million. With the way he was playing last season, when he was allowed to be the star of the show, if you will, that player, if you get that player for 82 games, that is easily a $20 to $25 million a year guy in the NBA, no doubt in my mind. So the only thing that scares me about him taking this deal is that I do think he can play as well as he did last season, right? He's not probably going to get the same level of minutes unless the Sixers are just decimated by injuries again. And obviously Jared McCain's already going to be out to start the season with, the injury to his hand. Who knows if Joel Embiid's going to be healthy? Who knows if Paul George is going to be healthy? There's so much up in the air, right? So there's a real chance that Quentin Grimes gets another really good opportunity, plays really hard, puts up great numbers, and gets a really big deal next summer. But there's also a chance that he gets injured and all of the money they could have had in this offseason, that $39 million deal, goes away and doesn't get offered next season, right? It's one thing to, go out there, bet on yourself, and, you tear an ACL or, something horrible like that. I truly hope nothing like that happens to Quentin Grimes. But it's different when you're a guy like Quentin Grimes, who's not necessarily a proven guy yet. He's not a made man yet in the NBA, if you will. Whereas a guy like Kyrie Irving, who's been on USA Basketball, who's been an all-star, who's been an NBA champion, he's a guy that if he goes out there and blows his knee out, he can still get another contract without putting that product on the floor immediately, right? Same thing with Damian Lillard. Damian Lillard's recovering from, his devastating injury that he sustained in the playoffs, and he was still able to go back to Portland and get, a lot of money, right? Maybe not as much as he should have gotten, but a lot of money, right? And he's older in his career. So I just think it can be tough for the rest of the league. It's very rare that a guy like Quentin Grimes bets on himself, has some sort of horrible injury that has him out for all of the, next season after that, and still comes back and is able to, get a deal, right? It's just tough. So I'm a big fan of Quentin Grimes. I really hope he gets what he deserves in terms of money and playing time, but it's a risk to bet on yourself, but it's certainly a noble risk. I totally respect Quentin Grimes for making the decision and betting on himself. I mean, that is just such a stroke of confidence right there, and that's something you want to see from NBA players, right? If I'm an up-and-coming team, right? Quentin Grimes is 25 years old. I'm looking at this dude and being like, I want to sign him to my team next season, right? If Philly doesn't want him, I'll take him. If I'm the Wizards, the Brooklyn Nets, another rebuilding team, like, it doesn't matter. So, big fan of Quentin Grimes. Think he's going to do big things in the league. Might not be this season, but certainly sometime here in the future. So let me know what you guys think about this move in the comments down below, and I'm gonna check you guys later, man. Stay up, stay blessed, stay safe, stay humble, handle business, stand on business. Peace out.